Well, a good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for the delayed proceedings to the start of race commentary. We're in the midst of a fantastic battle, though. It looks like the session started a little bit early on the server. That's kind of knocked a few things out of my line, so apologies for the silent start to this race one, but we join right back in the midst of the action here, so pleased to report we can get back underway. And here we see it's Matt Daly versus Andrew Whitehead in this battle for the lead of this race. Only 6 cars out on a track tonight, so later on. But 15 minutes to go in this race, and it's half a second separating your two race leaders. Let's see whereabouts they are on track in just a moment. But it is great to be back on screen, folks, here at Croft this evening. Can't quite remember if I mentioned that or not, but we are at Croft for round 5 of the Alfa Romeo Racing League's historic championship for 2025. Round 5, as I say, 15 minutes to go, and it's Matt Daly, your race leader at the moment. Very much being hunted down, though, by Andrew Whitehead. See a little bit of oversteer creeping in for Andrew Whitehead there as we power on through towards the end of the lap. Now around about 20 seconds to go until we come towards the end of the circuit. Obviously another historic racing venue here in Britain. It is the Croft circuit. We are just about to head across the checkered, sorry, try that again. About to head across the start-finish line and now heading in to the final hairpin, aptly named, of course, before we drop all the way down towards the Tower Bend after a little bit of a skirmish through Sector 1. 1 minute 33s are the lap times. Let's see what they did in qualifying in just a moment. But at the moment, Matt Daly has the upper hand in terms of lap time. Bounds over the chicane there without too much upset. That actually begins to build a bit of a gap in comparison to Andrew Whitehead, and is looking pretty comfortable out at the front end of things at the moment. The good old GTA 1750 interior cam there doing its best to frustrate me. I promise it doesn't. I promise it doesn't. Either way, we can see another historic GTA 1750 trait there, up nearly on 2 wheels. Now, we're not at Knock Hill this evening like we were a fortnight ago in these cars, where, let's just say, some handling characteristics were exacerbated owing to the nature of the circuit. A little bit more flat is Croft, so we shouldn't be seeing too many cars exploring the grip characteristics of their roofs. Either way, Andrew Whitehead closing up substantially now as we head on through the Sunny in, followed immediately by Sunny out, and then you have a nice little twisty complex. Again, fantastic corner names here at Croft before the hairpin. Quite literally, it is the complex. And then you head back onto the start-finish straight. A pretty long run, actually, for a British racing. So I say that British tracks have a habit of this. They are technical and twisty, but also they have a sort of plenty of wide-open throttle action. So that is what we're going to enjoy now as we head on to the start-finish straight. I can't hear these fantastic little twin cams, but you can watching at home, so I'm sure you're reveling in the sound, or at least you were, whilst I wasn't interrupting that sound with my voice. Either way, we head into the Sector 1 as part of the circuit once more. Matt Daly controlling things once again. It seems to be in certain phases of the lap, Andrew Whitehead is able to close up, but at the moment, Matt Daly is the driver out of the lead of things. I know in the previous race, these two had a bit of practice under their belts for this evening's proceedings. They did enjoy some driving around in a practice session last night. I believe it was Whitehead and Daly out in that session, unless I'm mistaken. No one else was in. And perhaps that's why we're seeing the control that these two are demonstrating over this race so far. 11 and a half minutes to go on the clock, so we have crossed half race distance. I was about to say time has flown by, but that's because, as I say, apologies for not being present for the very start of this race. But here we see Matt Daly still maintaining the race lead. Actually goes purple Sector 1 this time around. 1:33.9, his best lap so far. We'll take a look at what qualifying looked like in just a few moments. Those of you who were watching along with the timing system will know, but we weren't live before qualifying, so again, apologies for that. But in terms of your qualifying pace, here how it is looking as we see there. Andrew Whitehead beginning to creep away from just over 1 second. Our championship leader heads through the hairpin and onto the start finish straight with a kick of oversteer. He does. 14 points is the gap between these two drivers. Funnily enough, I remember when there was a gap of 14 points between 2 other drivers in a racing series recently, but that was settled on Sunday. Having a look potentially down the inside, though, is Andrew Whitehead. Thinks better of it, though. He's a little bit too far back to make anything stick just yet. terms of, I would love to give you the stats from qualifying, but I'm not getting any from the server. So we'll never know just how qualifying shaped up in the end. But what I can tell you is that we are in the first race of our doubleheader for this evening, as it is a doubleheader for most evening, in fact all evenings here in the AROC Racing Leagues. Matt Denny gets up onto two wheels there, is able to collect it, and now is very much under pressure. 10 minutes to go in this race, and less than half a second, make it 2.5 tenths, actually separating himself and Andrew Whitehead. Putting that pressure on is Whitehead now, is having a look down the inside. In fact, he's going to try and hang it around the outside. Can he make it stick? Both lean the way through the right-handers towards the end of the lap here, but it is going to be Matt Denny controlling things for the time being. The car in yellow looks to have the ever so slight upper edge in terms of pace for the high-speed corners. It seems to be where the big difference is, but Andrew Whitehead looking confident into those braking zones, able to close up those gaps that are created at various points throughout the lap. Here we go then, the complex followed by the hairpin in just a moment. Croft, a scene of a couple of great racing action here. I remember last time we drove out of Croft, there was only 2 cars out on track for the entire evening, but it was genuinely some of the best racing we've seen for a little while, because it was just 2 drivers going at it for 25 minutes straight. Matt Denny controlling things for the time being, and heading into turn 1 once more, using as much of the track as he dares. I see actually 4 wheels off the track. I don't have a track limit here, so there's no worries there. And then just kissing the curbs beautifully through the chicane. That is one of the benefits of running the soft suspension setup that we do run in this series, is that you see that these cars are able to negotiate these bumpy British tracks very well indeed. You'll see in a week's time the Giulietta here at Croft will behave very differently. Now, there is some discussion as to whether or not these cars could be underdamped. I mean, look at the way it bounds over there. I mean, half of that will be live axle as well. That is not actually, you know, forgive me, I don't believe these are live axle. I might be completely wrong there. Apologies if I am. Either way, definitely some antiquated and interesting suspension setups on these cars. 8 minutes to go in this session, and half a second is the gap. It closes up once more, though. This is going to be a bit of a race of attrition, I feel, folks. It's going to be who has the stamina, who has the endurance to just keep the nose clean for the longest possible time. That's going to be the driver who wins out in this running. We head into the complex once more. I actually think there was a tiny bit of contact between these 2 drivers. Nothing showing up on my screen so far, but it looks to be got a little bit questionable at various points. We spent the entire race looking at these 2 drivers. I will have a click round robin and have a look at some other action else on track if we can find any, but at the moment these 2 are the drivers giving us the most to talk about as we start yet another lap. Nice defensive position there into turn 1 for Matt Denny. Runs out wide over the curbs once more. Andrew Whitehead very much in contention here as we head further into the running. 5 minutes to go in this session, and Matt Daly still controls this race for the time being. I believe Alan Matthews has just had a bit of an incident heading on to the start-finish straight. He has, but is able to pick up and continue on. No major threat there. In fact, there in the background is Matt Daly and Andrew Whitehead. Andy Webb is currently on for a very good finish here of a P3 in this race. 27 seconds down, but is in no man's land effectively in this race. No pressure from behind. Here we go. Great shot from the front bumper of Andrew Whitehead here. Let's get a sense of just how much these 105 series cars are exercised with, I can confirm, solid rear axle here. Whoa, it gets a little bit squirrely for Matt Daly. 4.5 minutes to go in this race, and these two have not relented at any point. Andy Webb, as I say, P3, Alan Matthews P4. Then we have Steve Knight in P5 and Miles Davis P6. Miles Davis having a look down the inside into turn 1, makes his way past P6 and into P5. Great move there for Miles Davis. And there we go. It's Matt Daly on the front row of the grid. 6 tenths of a second separates these two drivers. And into turn 1 we go with our race leaders once more. 4 minutes on the clock. Here we go then, 3 minutes on the clock. Just to reconfirm, we are here for round 5 of the AROC Racing League's historic championship here at Croft this evening. Matt Daly is your race leader. Andrew Whitehead, the man in P2 at the moment. 1 second separates these two drivers. In terms of the championship then, let's have a look at how it's shaped up in terms of the points. Well, in terms of your points, 142 to Andrew Whitehead, Matt Daly on 128. Colin Keefe not present this evening, unfortunately, is third in 116 points to his name. Andy Webb currently 7th in the championship with 48, so this podium will be a huge benefit to him. His nearest rival is arguably Jack Hodson or Miles Webb. Jack Hodson not here this evening as well, unfortunately, but Miles Davis currently running in a P5. He's on 58 points to his name, so 10 points separates these two. Andy Webb will be closing up with that and making decent inroads into continuing on that championship fight. As I say, Colin Keefe not present this evening, which means Alan Matthews, who's currently running in for close up on Colin Keefe. Matt Daly, as it stands, will close the gap, or in fact around about half the gap to Matt Daly. So we have plenty to look forward to in terms of the championship and the reverse. Good race coming up next. Look at that fantastic slide from Matt Daly there. Style points to you, sir, for that one on the exit of the hairpin. Back on full throttle down into turn 1 once more. Just over a minute left on the clock, which means that this will be the penultimate lap of this race that we are now commencing. Over the curb we go for turn 1. Andrew Whitehead runs a little bit wider into that first turn, but does collect the car, is able to continue on, loses a bit of time, but no major ill effects otherwise. Elsewhere on track, Andy Webb looking comfortable heading into the hairpin to start what will be his penultimate lap of this race. Alan Matthews is a short while behind that, and then here is Steve Knight, who I believe might be some lap traffic in just a moment, although will probably survive it towards the end of this race. Actually, I know we've only got 6 competitors on track at the moment, but everyone on the lead lap of the race at the moment, which is definitely something to remark upon. It is very impressive between these two front-running drivers, it must be said. So at no point really have they exceeded more of a 1.2 second gap between them. They are very competitive in terms of their overall pace. Clearly know how to navigate this track. They've been putting pressure on each other or keeping each other occupied throughout the course of this race, and are, at least to my eyes, at least what I've seen so far, yet to put a foot wrong. Very impressive stuff. Andrew Whitehead begins to scrub off a little bit of pace now, so it's around about 1.5 seconds. Apologies for the commentator's curse there, but is otherwise looking pretty good. As we say, this is the ultimate lap of this race. Matt Daly navigates the final corner once more onto the start-finish straight. No drifting this time. There is Steve Knight for company, but now we'll be heading on to the final lap. Here we go then. Matt Daly has put in the work so far in this race. Can he keep that up as we navigate Croft for one last time? 16 laps under our belts so far in this race. Let's see what else Matt Daly can do. Through the chicanes we go, and Andrew Whitehead looking like a comparative speck in the rearview mirror at this point. Now that is impressive given that I'm talking about a 1.1 second gap, but Andrew Whitehead just not quite as close on this occasion. I suppose at this phase of the race you're not really wanting to throw anything away. Yes, you'd obviously like the race win, but 18 points is still a decent number to have in the championship, and you'd rather that than risk a potential P3, as Steve Knight very graciously, very courteously, very wisely moves out of the way there. So appreciate that, Steve Knight, for your awareness out on track. Very considerate of your fellow competitors. But as I say, Andrew Whitehead probably just settling into it for now. Will take away a podium as it stands. Still a remarkable position to be finishing in. Likewise, we'll talk about Andy Webb in just a moment. But can refocus himself for race 2, the reverse grid race coming up in just a moment, where of course he will start a position higher than Matt Daly, owing to the, as it stands, finishing position in this race. But we navigate the hairpin for one last time. A slightly slow run through the hairpin for Matt Daly. Andrew Whitehead's actually closing up substantially. We head across the start-finish line, take the checkered flag. It's Matt Daly flashing the headlights in celebration, who takes your race victory. Then it's Andrew Whitehead just behind, half a second behind. It was a very small difference over 25 minutes and then some of racing, but it's Andrew Whitehead who takes home P2. Then we have Steve Knight classified P6. We have a short wait to one of the first podiums for Andy Webb. A really impressive run for Andy Webb. Hasn't had too much to do in this race, but you've got to be in it to win it, and that is what matters, as Andy Webb has kept the nose pointing in the right direction. And you can't ask for more than that, can you? He is rewarded with a podium. Congratulations, Andy Webb, to round out the podium with P3. Then we have a short wait for Alan Matthews and Miles Davis as well. We saw Miles Davis taking that P5, finding a way past Steve Knight earlier on in this race. Here is Alan Matthews heading into the complex then. Back end kicks out. He does collect it though. Ooh, that got a little bit close for comfort, didn't it? But that is no problem for Alan Matthews, who heads round to take away P4. Then we have a short wait for Miles Davis, also heading into the complex, who will have just the hairpin to negotiate. And the other yellow liveried car in this race, also in our top 5. Onto the throttle we go. Let that twin cam sing, as Alan Matthews has completed his run. Just Miles Davis to go. And there we see Miles Davis taking P5 in race 1 here this evening. That brings an end to race 1 then. Here we have some drifting action in celebration, and that is some lovely sliding from Matt Daly. Let's see some more of that action through the hairpin, why don't we? Here we go, onto the throttle. Oh, we got a little bit of a kick at least. Well, that brings an end to race 1. We'll catch you in a few minutes as we get ready for race 2. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, on the grid, ready for race 2, our reverse grid race. And when I say on the grid, I do mean literally. Here we go. It's time for the camera car to have a bit of a run through as well. A commentated race with me partaking. It's finally happened, folks. I will get out of people's way if it does look like it could get a little bit dangerous for everyone else out on track. I've done no practice. I know the track, as in where the corners are and what they're called. And that's it. I've never driven this car in anger. This is going to be a learning experience for all of us, and I am looking forward to it. I hope you are as well. We have just under 2 minutes to go on until lights out. It's Steve Knight on pole. Miles Davis completes your front row. Then we have Alan Matthews and Andy Webb. Now, this is very interesting. We'll get into that in a moment. But then it's Andrew Whitehead and Matt Daly completely field. And then in P7, it's Reeve Taylor. But look at this, folks. Even if I want to have a look and see what my competitors are doing through some corners, I can do that. Isn't that fabulous? Here we go. Well, this is going to be a learning experience for us all, as I say. So, let's see. This is going to... Yeah. Anyway, 1 minute 20 to go until lights out. Let's see how things go, why don't we? Haven't driven in this sim for a little while as well. That only adds to the excitement now, doesn't it? Might be a little bit less analysis than usual, I must say. Let me just check my car's working. Oh, my pedals are... Okay, my pedals aren't actually pointing in the right direction. They are working, but they are in Narnia. This is all very good, very professional. Here we go then. Less than 60 seconds until lights out. Let's be clutch. That works. Brakes. That works. Engine revs. That's good. Engine car steers. Good, and I believe I've got my shifters mapped. So, should be good to go. Let's see how this ends. Now, I am in a prime position here to A, commentate on what happens through turn 1 with everyone else involved, and B, maybe capitalise if anyone else has some antics into turn 1. So you never know. Reeve might, well, hopefully should get some points on the board. It's only me. Well, I say it's only me. There's only 7 of us, so I should, if I don't get points, something's gone wrong. Either way, 10 seconds now until lights out. I need to try and find my my kind of bike point on the clutch and everything. I put some fuel in it. Hopefully it's enough. We have 6 red lights on the gantry. And we are away for race 2 here this evening at Croft. It's a cracking start for Matt Daly out in front there. It's an okay-ish start for Reeve Taylor as well. We're 3 wide with our competitors heading into the first corner now. This is great stuff. Oh my God, it locks up very easily indeed, doesn't it? That's a thing to consider. Either way, over the chicanes we go. I have no idea. I haven't got me speakers on or anything, so I have no idea where I'm shifting. I'm going to just head through this chicane here. Let's just focus on survival. As we can see, a bit of a spin out there for Steve Knight by the looks of things. I'm missing my shift points completely. I'm going to see if I can turn some audio on whilst commentating and driving. This is a fascinating experience. I'm losing some time, losing some pretty substantial time. Oh, I'm locking up. Yeah, this is an insight into just how difficult it is to drive these cars for our competitors here. They're doing a very impressive job on your screens, folks, day in, day out, whenever they are racing. I've got some engine audio now. That's a good sign. I can now hear. I don't know where this track goes. I'm looking at myself on the timing system. Right, okay, so there's a decent corner coming up next. I've locked up once more. I'm really going to be struggling with these brakes, aren't I? This is... I mean, I'm glad I've got the load cell. That helps. I'd love to be able to tell you what else is going on. Currently, Miles Davis leads us, and this will be his maiden lead. So if it looks like it's staying that way, I am going to get out of the car pretty much and have a look at what Miles Davis is doing, because it would be a shame to see his maiden victory not broadcast for your enjoyment at home. Currently not last, as it looks like Matt Daly has had an incident out on track. Not quite sure where that is. Steve Knight is hunting me down, so I'm going to probably get out of his way because I've messed up the gears quite bad there. I have indeed. Through goes Steve Knight. Validated that lap time, perhaps unsurprisingly. Oh, it's telling me it's my final lap. I think that is just a glitch on the timing system. I don't think it quite knows what to do when you're registered as a commentator. All of a sudden, you're out on track. But this is something new. Now, I would love to be able to look at some of the live stream comments as well, if there are any, just to get a a glimpse or to, you know, take some feedbacks from folks, but I can't multitask that much, I'm not going to lie. This is already proven difficult. Currently, Miles Davis leads the charge by 2.5 seconds from Alan Matthews. Then we have a few seconds gap to previous P2 position holder Andrew Whitehead. Difficulties for Matt Daly mean that it was a little bit tricky for him to get started in this race. He's currently in P5, and we know what impressive race pace he has, so do not count him out for anything later on in this race. Then it is Steve Knight, and then it is a Mr. Reeve Taylor plumb last. That is perhaps unsurprising at this point. It's the gearing. The gearing's the tricky bit. I don't trust the grip level as well. I've put a lot of fuel in it just in case. She's feisty under brakes, is this car. I may have been better off doing this in the Giulietta, but I thought, given the issues with the stream time, etc., I thought, you know what, I need to rev this out a lot more. I talk about it when everyone comes about how it's got a twin cam engine, it likes to be revved, that's where the power is, and I'm shifting at 6,000 RPM. There's plenty more revs to play with, and I just need to use them. First time driving this car, as I say. Been way too high of a gear through that final corner. But I'm also wanting to make sure that you guys actually get to listen to something instead of just a silent lap of someone driving around. Miles Davis does still lead us. Really impressive run for Miles Davis. I'm in the 150. That's bad. That's really bad. This is worse. This is worse. Catch it. That was planned. That was definitely planned. I did it for style points. Let's see. Let's bring some auto cam apps into it. What could possibly go wrong? It's a corner there, Reeve. There we go. Made it through. Yeah. 151 is not an impressive lap time. What else is going on out on track? As soon as I get another straight bit, there's a corner coming up now, we'll go and have a look and see what else is going on, because there might be some decent action for us to take a look at. Well, go on board with our race leader. Oh my god, that's really off. But that's confusing, because your mind thinks you're in a car and then you're not in a car that you're controlling. Very odd. Either way, I'm slightly off the 136s that the living only by about 12 seconds. Oh dear. I've never known a car this eager to lock up. There you go. Here we get a glimpse of the footwell there. There you can see the flames on the overrun of this car as well. Fabulous looking machine, of course. It's one of 5 Series GTA. I've gone wide there. I've gone really wide. Left it. What do you do with the diff here? It just spins up the inner wheel. Barely on any throttle at all. Right, come on. Let's get a quick lap in. We're only 5 minutes into this race. I don't know how on earth we're going to survive. Oh, I've just been told off for putting the track. I don't know how. I've been perfectly fine. I am absolutely fine here. Nothing. This is perfect racing. I think we obviously do the AROC Racing League's summer events, or sometimes winter championships as well. And if you're looking to get involved, dip your toe into AROC Racing League's action, and you're not quite sure you want to commit to a season, that's a great way to get involved. But I've shown decent pace every now and again there. Not electric race-winning stuff, not like your Whiteheads or your Matt Daly's or your Kniefs. But it's not been the worst, and this is not an example of this. But there has been contact out front between Andrew Whitehead and Alan Matthews. We'll jump on board with those two in a minute when I eventually give up on this terrible endeavour. But yeah, things hotting up at the front end here. Going to go for a... I don't need to brake from there, I just don't have the confidence in the car. I don't like carrying the speed into the corners, because then it locks up. I need to trust in this car a lot more. Yellow flags out in front. It looks like Steve Knight's had an issue at the hairpin. Had to return to the pits, unfortunately, as well. That's a terrible shame for a driver who is working on consistency at the moment. And that is... Relate... Oh! Relate to... Yeah, Steve Knight has come leaps and bounds in the past couple of seasons of AROC Racing League's action overall. this looks like one unfortunate incident at the hairpin has been very unforgiving by the looks of it, because it just goes to show you just how nasty those chicanes can be. Right, I've used 2 out of me 4 warnings now. That's not good. Oh, that's worse. That's gravel. Well, this has been an interesting endeavour, hasn't it? But the racing is actually getting more prevalent than my own terrible decisions here. So we'll catch you in just a few seconds. Well, here we go. 15 minutes left to go in this race, and I'm back where I belong, aka not on a racetrack. Miles Davis is currently leading us very comfortably. Lead in up front there. Andrew Whitehead hunting him down at the moment, but a great little battle ensued between Whitehead and Alan Matthews, which I believe ended in a little bit of contact, shall we say. Currently running in P5, though, is Alan Matthews, hoping to pick up pieces. And then we have Steve Knight, who is promoted to P6 after my less than unfortunate demise, shall we say. This is optimal. This is optimal. Having me not on the racetrack is what people want to see. 3.5 seconds is the gap between Miles Davis and Andrew. Sorry, that is Andrew Whitehead indeed. Then we have Matt Daly running in P3. Just ahead is Whitehead. And then we move on board to Andy Webb, a podium sitter in the previous race, but no fortune with that just so far. We still have 30 minutes left to go, and anything can happen. Yes. Then we have Alan Matthews running in P5, and then Steve Knight in P6 as well. Matt Daly is the driver hunting down Andrew Whitehead at the moment. The roles have reversed in comparison to race 1, and this could be a very good sign for Miles Davis. He approaches half race distance, has been controlling things, has lost a couple of tenths compared to Andrew Whitehead in the previous lap. The gap is still 3 seconds. Then we have Matt Daly running in P3 at the moment with a previous lap time of a 1:34.1. 33.8 is the best time overall. Then we have Andy Webb at 35.8, currently on a charge at the moment. That's his previous lap and fastest as well. We have my fastest being 4 seconds slower than anyone else. Oh dearie me. My best lap, aka the first lap, might have been the second, a 1:51.2. So only 13 seconds. In fact, overall, 17 seconds off the fastest lap of the race so far. That's an impressive run there. So what we've learned is I can't multitask. got multitask and drive an old GCA 1750. And you know what? More so than ever, I have a true appreciation. I think if that had been, for example, the Julia GT3 that we ran, anything modern with your creature comforts like your ABS and modern suspension design, a bit of downforce in there as well, compliments you. It gives you an easy ride. These things are old school. You've got to keep the revs high. You've got to slide it through this bend. That's what I wasn't doing through that hairpin, and it was just spinning up the inside wheel and no power was going down. These guys have clearly gelled with these cars well, and there's a lot of work for me to do if I was to ever attempt that again. I don't think anyone wants to see anytime soon. Either way, Matt Daly running in P3 at the moment. 4 seconds is the gap between Daly and Miles Davis. Whitehead has closed up substantially to Miles Davis. We're going to have a bit of a fight on our hands, folks, in a three-way battle for the race lead here in race 2. Let's have a quick look at our championship then, as our leading driver is hunting down Miles Davis. It's Andrew Whitehead who leads the charge with 160 points to his name. That's now only 7 ahead of Matt Daly. Still Colin Knief in P3, 116, but Alan Matthews now only 14 behind with 102. So we'll close that gap further, obviously scoring points in this evening's race. Then we have Miles Davis running in a P5 for the championship, has jumped ahead of, or still ahead rather, of Andy Webb. That's 5 points, the gap between the two, and at the moment Miles Davis will increase that margin pretty substantially if he can maintain this position in the race. I wonder if, I don't think I will, because it won't have been a classified finish. I hope not, because no one needs to see that ever again. That was a mistake upon Reeve's part there. 10 minutes left on the clock. Andrew Whitehead is hunting down Miles Davis and is beginning to put that pressure on. That 1 second gap that we enjoyed between Daly and Whitehead in race 1 is now the gap that we are seeing between Davis and Whitehead here in race 2. Miles Davis has controlled things quite nicely for 15 minutes so far in this race, but is now going to be feeling that pressure from Andrew Whitehead. And of course, if Andrew Whitehead is even remotely held up, Matt Daly, who is already closing up and putting in some impressive lap times, is going to be on the scene as well. We are going to get that 3-car battle for the race lead, but Miles Davis looking like he's under pressure as we head on to the back straight. Or the closest thing we have to the back straight, at least here at Croft. A couple of apexes to negotiate. There we see Miles Davis less than 10 separated to Andrew Whitehead. Has a brief glance down the inside there. Very narrow part of the track compared to the high speeds that you carry, so no major opportunities presenting themselves just yet, and Andrew Whitehead has to hang back for the time being. We head further into the lap though. 10 minutes less than rather on the clock in this race, and we head round into the complex once more. Half a second is the gap between our two front runners. Look who's on the scene as well. It's Matt Daly, who's closed up, and it's now only a second half between Andrew Whitehead. This needs to be one of Andrew Whitehead's opportunities, but he has messed up the final run through that hairpin ever so slightly. Is now no longer putting pressure on Miles Davis. All of a sudden, it's Matt Daly versus Andrew Whitehead. Matt Daly actually gets past Andrew Whitehead as we head into turn 1. Disaster strikes for Andrew Whitehead in this first opportunity on this lap then, as Matt Daly finds his way on through. 8 minutes on the clock and hunting down Miles Davis. The cars in yellow will be scrapping it out for the race lead. Here we go then, Daly under pressure as Whitehead tries to hang it round the outside. Doesn't quite work this time. Head on to the run down towards sector 3 in just a moment. Through the tower bend we've travelled, and there we can see just in the background through this is Andrew Whitehead. Still a little bit behind, 8 minutes left on the clock. We have Miles Davis still leads us by 7/10 of a second. Here's your top 3 then. Miles Davis, Matt Daly, Andrew Whitehead. Then we drop back to Andy Webb and Alan Matthews, your top 5, followed by Steve Knight in P6 as well. Half a second is the gap between Davis and Daly. Top 3 is where all your action is at. just like it was in race 1 as we head through the hairpin. That run through the hairpin, you've got to keep the car on cam, you've got to keep the momentum up as you head onto the start-finish straight. It was a decent run there for Matt Daly. Andrew Whitehead kept that momentum and the revs up by sliding his way on through. Miles Davis, the most compromised driver, I would say, from that run onto the start-finish straight, has all the work to do in terms of the defence here, but chucks the car into turn 1, chucks it too hard, goes up onto 2 wheels, spins round, is on the roof, and that is his run towards a potential first victory all over. What a shame for Miles Davis. It all goes wrong, and he pushes on. He's still in P3, but not the position he wanted to be in, I am sure of that. In fact, make that P4, as that was Andy Moe making his way on through. Here we go then, it's Matt Daly versus Andrew Whitehead, a battle we've seen once before, continues on here in race 2. Here we see Andrew Whitehead having a look around the outside. That gives him a nice entry, and he is potentially able to switch it back if it weren't for Matt Daly's fabulous defence there. Was able to keep Whitehead at bay. You don't quite realise just how much these guys have cut out for them in terms of work to do. Not only are they racing, but they are wrestling a raging bull effectively in the shape of this car. It's a real treat to drive, to be honest. It's a challenge, keeps you on your toes, and it is novel. It's really, it's actually a fun challenge to drive this car, but it does keep you on your toes, that is for sure. So the fact that these drivers are doing, are A, keeping the cars pointed in the right direction, B, setting competitive lap times, and C, scrapping it out with each other, you know, going side by side and thinking about racecraft, really impressive stuff from these drivers. My appreciation and respect only goes up after a glimpse into the world. I do apologise for my bringing down or reduction of the tone, shall we say, on the first part of this race. Here we see less than 5 minutes on the clock, and it's deja vu, folks. It's Matt Daly very much under pressure from Andrew Whitehead. As we've seen so many times in the past, if it's one thing to catch up, it's another thing to overtake. That old adage rings true here, as we can see. Whitehead has very much got the pace to keep up with Daly, to very much apply that pressure, just is not able to find a way past just yet. Just saw in race 1, Daly controlling things very nicely, keeping those defensive moves up. There is Alan Matthews' lap down button on shot as well. Matt Daly is flying along at the moment, it must be said. I'd love to know how much fuel these guys were. I put in 37 litres, just because I didn't know how much. In hindsight, given that I knew that I wasn't actually really going to make it towards the end of the race, probably should have put about 10 in and gone for some glory laps. Not that I was in any shape or form ready for any glory laps. Just look at the way I was driving. And this brings me back to, do you remember in 2020, Portimao, George Russell in that Enviro 400 bus of a Williams, managing to, just on a practice lap, admittedly, but still, you know, still practice lap before the car, was able to commentate his lap around the circuit. That is impressive stuff from the now not so young driver, I guess, but yeah, I certainly, I mean, on a much less grandiose scale, we're talking about a Classic Alpha at Croft in a racing game on a Logitech G920, was not able to do anything remotely similar. But here we go. Matt Daly leads us still with 0.8 of a second, the gap between him and Andrew Whitehead as we now head into the final few laps of this race. We're looking around about 16, 17 laps, and that gap is close, but Whitehead still not able to find a way past. For Andrew Whitehead, and of course, in the glimpse of my eye there, can he get back underway? He can. His car will be very wounded from that, but he is able to push on. In second then, and looking pretty comfortable in that second position, it is Andrew Whitehead. Has a decent gap to Andy Webb, who's found a way past Miles Davis, and is running in P3. Miles Davis, that unfortunate rollover earlier, taking away what could have been a maiden victory if he was able to keep up the defence. So Andy Webb, once again, on for another podium at this race weekend. That is really impressive stuff from the pink liveried car there. Miles Davis again will be, I'm sure, disheartened by the race win that could have been, but I'm sure will still settle for the points that he takes away for P4. We currently have Alan Matthews in P5, Steve not running P6 at the moment. We head on to Matt Daly, though, now leads us by 12 seconds. The biggest margin he's enjoyed all weekend, of course. In race 1, he was very much under pressure. For plenty of race 2, he's enjoyed that pressure, and that was served up in the form of Andrew Whitehead. But this time around, it will be a nice, gentle cruise. So he heads around the hairpin once more. The softly sprung GTA 1750 navigated that hairpin much better than myself. And onto the start-finish straight we go. That twin cam roars as he takes race 2 victory. Matt Daly takes away the top step of the podium once again, and this time we're going to get some rallycross donuts, I suspect. Here is Andrew Whitehead. We'll be coming home P2 at least, so no change of position after that unfortunate incident. So at least some decent points on the starts here. This also equalises the championship and means that our two championship leaders want equal points heading into the next round. Andy Webb then rounds out your podium, running in P3, just a second or so ahead of Miles Davis, who completes running in P4. That brings an end to this evening's racing. Hope you've enjoyed watching the bits where I wasn't making a fool of myself. Thank you very much for watching this evening.